Okay, so next, I promised some healthy eating conversation here, but we're going to bring in some fast food restaurants, which doesn't sound like it kind of goes together that well, but the province is trying to make it that way. It's this informed dining program that the province is trying to bring in, where basically places like, your McDonald's, your Tim Hortons, Dairy Queen, they put out all this nutrition information. It sounds like it's modeled after something that is already going on in BC. It's just a matter of, will it become legislation where these places have to do it? It sounds like it's just the restaurants can opt in if they want, and then the province can almost promote the fact that they're doing that.
Is it all restaurants, or is it just the fast food places?
It sounds like just based on the summary that I've found, it's just based on what they do list is Subway and Boston Pizza are already doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you can almost sit at Subway and you can look on your napkin and it's got the caloric information.
Yeah, totally,
right And then you think to yourself, oh, the sub I'm having isn't on this top 10.
It's a suggestion by the Restaurant Association. So if the restaurant is in that association, they have the choice of doing it. And Rudy, you don't like that.
Well, I don't mind the restaurants like your Subway, your Boston Pizza, your restaurants that I'm going to more for fast food. That stuff I'm eating a lot more. Like I could eat a couple times a week maybe. If I'm going out for a nice dinner, a steak dinner, if I'm going to spend a lot of money, I've accepted that I might not eat very good because bad food tastes real good, and I pay a lot of money for that.
Steak dinner at a fancy restaurant, bad food? Like if it's well prepared, it could be, grilled veggies and a steak is not that bad.
This is true.
McDonald's is way worse.
Sorry. About that.
And I mean, that's the thing. I think about the times that I go and eat McDonald's is, it's in a pinch or it's late. Very late.
I think
Mostly after some beverages.
Yes, when at that point, which at that point you really don't care what's in the food.
But don't you think we look at labels more and we look at calorie content? Not you, but
I don't know. I was actually going to bring that up. Is it just calorie content that they're proposing putting out?
It sounds. All it says is nutrition information. So
I've always thought it's so weird that it's just like they just list the bad things. But they don't list the good things that.
Because there's
do you know what I mean? So you could take a napkin and smear some mayo on it, and that would fit right into the, oh, this only has like 32 calories. Go for it. This is great for you. But no, it doesn't have any actual nutrition, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a really good thing. I think the more truth and fact that's put out there when it comes to healthy eating or any kind of eating is important. Because look at all the marketing and the advertising that goes against deceiving us as to what's healthy or what, you see that size 2 woman eating the Big Mac on the billboard. You're like, hey, I don't think she eats those every day. I have a feeling.
Or the Wendy's girl that clearly does not. She just has the Wendy's food in front of her and never eats it.
Do you remember for a little while they actually had the real Wendy's girl on?
Dave Thomas's.
It was his actual daughter. And she was on there for she was on TV for maybe 45 minutes of commercials. Absolutely. I thought it was so awesome. And then all of a sudden they have this little 78-pound lady Wendy's, I would never eat this stuff.
And perky. Yeah.
And now you see much more advertising towards free run eggs or no steroids in the beef. That's what A&W is doing now.
A&W is doing, and all their 790 outlets I read are going to be doing that without growth hormones or steroids in their beef.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are at this point willing to give up and consume more calories if they know that it's a quality product that they're getting.
But then that's marketing. So do you trust that? If you know that something is, a fact and it's a truth, like this has exactly 850 calories. Yeah. Well, at least it's the truth. It's not. This is free run fat. Oh, great! I'm glad the fat's happy, but it's still fat.
In the same vein as McDonald's back in the day when they had a company called 100% Beef.
Exactly. Yeah.
They would never lie to us. Right? They would never lie.
And we spent, so much of the issues of obesity and all that is because of this deception. So the more we can fight to balance that with truth, I think the better.
Does that take the whole novelty and the enjoyment of eating? Decrease when you have to look and say, I really want that, but I should have that, because now there's almost too much information.
Well, but if you don't want that information, what you do is you take your eyes and don't point them there. You just point them somewhere else, and then.
Or you have the choice of menu.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the choice of menu.
It does do the job, though. I mean, I know there's been a few times that you go into McDonald's and you go, okay, or wherever it may be, and you just go and you're like, hey, damage control. Probably shouldn't have the double baked, double fried this.
Variety now, and they really changed McDonald's.
But do you really go to McDonald's to have apple slices?
That's the thing.
I think as soon
But
as
only with that
With
super
caramel
gooey
sauce.
caramel sauce.
The only time I've ever had apple slices when I've stolen them from my niece. Like, oh, no, it's good.
I mean, to me, the breakdown is the decision to go in or not, because you know once you're through the doors, you're gonna cheat, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, do I go home and make something healthy and like, you know, get into that, or do I just cheat? So I think, you know, it's seeing those billboards with the healthy family, or like seeing the soccer player on the Nutella thing. You're like, oh, this chocolate sugar's healthy. It's gonna make me an athlete. Great, you know.
But again,
that's
like,
not fair.
What we were talking about in the first, well, just recently about Canada and us or U.S. coming together. I mean, they are like the masters of advertisement. I mean, you know, we got the McDonald's and, you know, the Hardee's and whatever. If we have to eat healthy, why not just get rid of them? Like,
Too much
shut them
money.
down.
So much
I think
money.
we're too far in. There are countries. I remember when my sister lived in the Caribbean, they wouldn't let McDonald's go into Trinidad. Like that was the thing. They said we don't accept this.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. However, there are so many KFCs down there and other restaurants that are just equally or worse than McDonald's, right? So, but I think
And
we're
then
too
also,
far in,
yeah.
and it's the economy. They're too. The
And
economy
they're too involved and intertwined with the economy at this point. And plus, they make all this money, and I mean, you know, you can say what you want about the food, but they also, you know, help out in their community, right? Like that's the thing, right? You know, you think of, you know, we keep going back on McDonald's. It just seems to be what's in the front of my mind at this point. But you think of something like Ronald McDonald House and all that kind of stuff. So you lose that. If you lose the fast food chain.
I mean, by the same reasoning, we could invite crack dealers into Canada and be like, you know what? As long as you guys set up charities, you deal your crack, and then have like crack dealer house on the corner that does
Yeah.
really good things for people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I can see that.
just because they do a little bit of good doesn't mean they're not harming a ton
Yeah.
of people at the
It's
same
not
time.
good for you, you know, like simple, real food, you know, the stuff a lot of local farmers and local producers, the whole farm to table movement stuff is where we should be focusing on if we
Yeah.
can. But again, that's still a little bit of marketing, right? That's still kind of in style.
It's not sexy.
but
It's not. It's too
it's
much
a little
work.
sexy,
Yeah.
Tracy.
Really?
It has become sexy.
Taking those little rutabagas out there.
I think people are really into that now. I know.
Yeah.
I know I'm into
Very
that,
much
but
so,
it's
yeah.
it seems like that would be a great direction if people could kind of say, let's not go too nuts into the fast food stuff, but learn a little bit more about where our food comes from and why we should eat this. And that's education. It takes a lot.
I had a moment of clarity actually the other day. A lot of people really insist on getting like produce, like organic produce that hasn't been sprayed with stuff. And I had never really cared about that much until I got some apples. I brought them home and I went to take a bite of one, and there was probably like half a centimeter of wax and crap on the outside of the apple, and I realized like this is why people get organic produce, because I'm going to ingest this. So I spent like 45 minutes washing it, and then it turns out there was an actual real apple under there.
okay.
Yeah, it was great. So I finally understand why, because I don't know what that stuff is, right? Like,
And it's a rewarding thing to pick an apple. We have a huge apple tree in our backyard, and my daughter will pick an apple off, and she's just learned to shine it on her shirt, and it's just doesn't even need to be washed. We don't spray it or anything, and it's such a different experience than getting that waxed up apple.
Well, speaking of an experience, a couple of people in a Costco parking lot had quite an experience. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Shopping cart ones.